All right, everybody, let's tackle the elephant in the room. If you're looking for limited optics or modified Division 3 gun pistols and you're in the Atlas world, Athena versus Artemis. Let's get into it. Which one should you pick and why? The easy answer is it doesn't matter. Ultimately, either one is a good pistol, right? But you would expect me to say that because I'm an ambassador. But having both, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on them. And I'm a little bit of a backstory guy, so let's start at the beginning. Athena originally started out in an era before limited optics, before modified Division and 3 gun. There wasn't really a place in the competitive world for this to exist. And in the tactical side of the world, or more the entertainment side of the world, the world wasn't quite ready for compensators yet there. So essentially we were looking for a contemporary wide body 1911 pistol that could have a slide ride dot but wasn't compensated. This was in the era of Atlas coming out with the 4.6 inch barrel 9mm guns. Primarily at that time they were pushing the Hyperions. Those were the ones to have in TAC Ops for USPSA for multi-gun. And this was the slide ride red dot version of the Hyperion, if you will. But it wasn't ever really expected to be as popular as it became. However, it quickly became one of their best-selling models. So I kind of asked them for this at the time in my professional career. I was doing more and more training and demos with law enforcement. I can shoot whatever kind of gun I want, and I shoot a lot, so I want to shoot an Atlas. I wanted a contemporary gun with a red dot on it. I wasn't shooting TAC Ops at the time, so I didn't really need a Hyperion. I don't know that I was the reason they made this model. I was one of the people that had put this bug in their ear, and this is one of the first ones. This isn't the first one. This isn't the prototype one. This is one of the first Athenas that was offered in the market. At that time, they were wearing chili grips. This particular one had a tactical magwell on it before. Other than that, I haven't really changed anything on it. This is how it comes. As of this recording, this gun has about 20,000 rounds on it. That's not a number I pulled out of thin air. That's documented. 20,000 rounds on this gun to give you an idea. Artemis really entered the Atlas world on a world shoot year for IPSC. They were looking to develop an IPSC world shoot gun in 40. So in IPSC, the limited guns have to fit in a box. So they were trying to do a sight block gun in 40. They wanted the sight block for the recoil impulse on 40, but it had to fit in the box. So that was where the Artemis was born, but that's also in the area where the demand for red dot compatible pistols was on the rise. So this quickly kind of became synonymous as an RDS model as well, but primarily developed as a 40 caliber gun, primarily for international IPSC competition. However, if you're business minded in the industry, if you're making a gun in 40, you should make it in 9. Almost immediately people were asking for it in 9, so they made it in 9 as well, kind of, dare I say, kind of begrudgingly. But here it is. And so when they came out with it and they were trying to describe it to people, because return to zero, the perfect zero, is Atlas's thing, right? They'll do that in any pistol with the right amount of balance of slide weight and spring rate and cartridge. You can get perfect zero out of any of the Atlas guns. So these guns being so feature different, if you will, 5-inch sight block or 4.6 sight block, 4.6 naked, well, how could that be? Like, one has to be better than the other. This one has a longer dust cover and a sight block on it, so it must recoil less, right? Not necessarily. They described this one as more optimal for someone with less grip strength. Those were the types of people who would be happy with it, and primarily women, because Not a whole lot of kids are getting their parents to buy them this kind of gun. So smaller statured, less grip strength people were kind of like, well, you might like this gun. They straight up told me, watching the video, right, I am none of those things. So they told me straight up I wouldn't like it, probably. And so challenge accepted. But for the most part, this gun wasn't really marketed towards me. They're like, you would probably be happier with an Athena. But now I have both, right? These are both mine, and I can, I have lots of time on both. So here's my thoughts on this. If you are trying to buy once, cry once, and decide between these two, here's what I think. Athena, what makes the appeal of an Athena is agility. It feels lighter, quicker around a holster. It feels more agile in the hand. So if you like those characteristics of a pistol, if you're a Glock 45 type person, if you like the shorter footprint guns with a full grip, that's really what's going to appeal to you on this one. It feels a bit more nimble, agile around the holster, and while you're shooting it. Artemis is a lot more stable. If this is a motorcycle, this is a sports car. All right, 4 wheels on the ground. It's physically a little bit more massive. It is bigger. It's harder is relative, but it's more substantial to move around. It feels like a bigger gun. But what you get for that is what I would term supported recoil. This is adjectives to describe a feeling, right? But we can get perfect zero out of any of these guns. But these guns feel different to me. I shoot tens of thousands of rounds a year. I'm here to tell you these guns feel different, but how would I describe it? I describe this as supported recoil. So if we think about the sensation that you perceive as a recoil impulse, that is a ton of individual things stacked on top of each other, right? That's the detonation of a cartridge. That is the bottoming out of a slide. That is picking up a cartridge on the magazine. That's a cartridge hitting the feed ramp, coming out of the magazine, coming under extractor tension, and then that whole thing going into battery. That all stacks up into what you perceive as a recoil. A lot of those things are optimized already in an Atlas pistol. That's what you pay for. That's the craftsmanship that you pay for over other wide body pistols, and why these feel so drastically different. The slide frame fit on them. All right, well, if your slide's chattering up and down the frame rails, that's something you can feel. Whether it's significant or not, well, that depends on you and how you value the money you're going to spend on this purchase, but you can absolutely feel it. And if you were to try and put your finger on why a premium gun feels the way it does, is because we've eliminated and smoothed out a lot of those things. Back to our conversation here, the end of that cycle, right? So this has already happened. It's picked up a cartridge and it's going into battery. That part right there, I would equate that to throwing a punch. All right, so throwing punch. If you were to picture throwing a punch, or even while you're watching this video, don't hit your computer, but if you're just to throw a punch as hard as you can into air, all that energy has to go somewhere, and it feels kind of bad, right? Because like all that energy like kind of pulls your shoulder out a little bit because it didn't have anywhere to go. It didn't transfer into anything. That's shooting an Athena. I call it unsupported recoil. So if I were to put a term on it, it's like it recoiled and settled out into nothing. A Artemis is supported recoil. That's more like hitting a punching bag. You didn't really get an effect out of anything, but you transferred that energy, and it went somewhere and was solid and stable when it was done. That's what it feels like here. Like it's almost like it recoils against something. Now, is that actually what happens? No, I don't think the slide actually touches the sight block. I think you can put a feeler gauge in there. It's very tight. I don't know that you can even see light through there. I don't think these actually touch each other. What pushes it forward is the slide pushing on the barrel and the barrel link, not the slide hitting the sight block. I don't think those two actually hit each other. If they do, only subtly so, but the feeling of the impulse, it culminates in a supported fashion, if you will. That's how I would describe an Athena to you in 9mm. I've never shot one in 40. Which do I prefer? Well, I prefer to have both, right? So I can pick either of them. But if you're not going to buy two guns, right? I would position this more like, well, if I could have two of either one, which one would I pick? If I were going to just have two of one model, I would prefer the Athena. The Artemis, I'm sorry. The Artemis. The Artemis is the one I prefer out of the two of these. I like a little bit more solid feel, and I like the way the gun recoils a bit more. So if I were going to have a redundant pair, like a match gun and a practice gun, or a main gun and a backup gun, I would prefer to have two Artemises, got it right that time, Artemises, instead of Athenas. That being said, this one it's kind of never really been my favorite. I always kind of had it for a technical reason, like I had it for work, or I had it for demos or something, and it was never really my favorite. However, when limited optics came into being with USPSA, this was my limited optics legal gun at the time. So this is the one when I really put my head down and tried to get Grandmaster in limited optics right when that was first announced. This is the one I did it with. So while I prefer this one, I can shoot this one at a really high level too, and this one does have a special place for me now. For the most part, this one in my world wears a flashlight most of the time, and I use it for tactical style training and demos and stuff like that. And it's my practice gun. I put all my practice reps on this gun, my practice rounds on this one, so I don't get a really high round count on my match gun. I have a really nice match gun, and I want it to stay prime as long as possible, because if you start putting a lot of reps on a gun, either dry or live fire, parts wear out, extractors wear out, mag catches wear out. Since these two are so close to each other, I use this one as a work gun, a practice gun, let people try this gun, and that way I can somewhat keep this one pristine, lower round count, so it is match ready at all times. But to answer the question, which one? I would pick the Artemis. If you could have both, have both. If you like a nimbler feeling gun, you're not going wrong to pick an Athena. Both will return to zero with proper tuning and the right load, but it's just a subtle difference in recoil between the two. And if you're gonna pick, I would say that is how I would base the decision. If you can, get your hands on both and shoot both. But if you can't, think about kind of what style of gun you like, or kind of what you would like your recoil impulse to feel like, and that would drive your decision as to which one you would get if you're looking for a limited optics gun in 9mm. Atlas, Athena versus Artemis. There you go. AMAX out.